Since posting yesterday's video where we was talking about investments that you can start getting ready now for Phase 2, which if you haven't seen that video, obviously link in the description and I'll put a card up there somewhere now. Many of you have asked in the comments, when do I think Phase 2 is going to launch? This could be for several reasons, whether you're in a rush trying to get an ult ready, or if you are genuinely getting a little bit bored of the content already and looking for that next challenge. Well, there's a few things we need to think about, and one of them being that we've seen record numbers of people raiding, so beating out all of that of vanilla and TBC. So that would say most people that intend on raiding in Wrath of the Lich King are already raiding. That's not to say that there isn't new people joining the game every day, because I'm sure there is, but in equal parts there will be people joining the game and others leaving the game to go and play Dragonflight. We'll naturally see a bit of a drop-off over, well, it's probably already started. It's certainly already started on our server. All the raids are on farm. People are now pretty much raid logging if they're only using one character, or potentially raid logging even if they're using two characters. I personally have seen a bit of a dip in our guild where people are off playing other games, but that normally happens around this sort of time, to be fair, whenever we get a new expansion of World of Warcraft. The same happened in TBC, the same happened in Vanilla, and the same is probably going to happen in Dragonflight later this month. Now, rather than me just sticking my finger in the air and going, I think it's going to launch around this time, we're going to look at some facts, and actually some facts that are even been given to us by Blizzard. Before we look at the historic launch of TBC Classic going from Phase 1 to Phase 2, this is just a real short clip where I actually asked Chris, who works at Blizzard, I asked him, are we expecting to see a similar timeline between TBC and Wrath of the Lich King? So will we spend more time in Northrend than we did in Outland, is actually how I believe I posed the question. Let's see what he had to say.
I think we're planning on taking longer this time. Like, okay, it's going to be, I think we're thinking more like closer, not quite a year and a half, I think, but definitely longer than we took on Burning Crusade to go through it all. We felt like some of the phases of Burning Crusade, we went through maybe a little bit too fast. So we're doing a little bit more measured pace for Sunwell, for ice cream, for Wrath of the Lich King.
That's cool. And you mentioned obviously about the Ulduar buffing the items. You know, that's been well received, and that's going to have...
That's for another video. We are going to break down the Ulduar item level. If you haven't seen the Ulduar item level conundrum video I put out, I'm actually going to dig a little bit deeper into exactly what Chris said in this interview, but that'll be coming later on in the week. But basically, he said not quite a year and a half, so it's not going to be massively longer than TBC, which lasted around 14 months. It was actually less than a year before we was in the final phase of content. Now, Blizzard did also say that Ulduar felt rushed originally, and we actually skipped over the content quite fast, so they want it to last a bit longer this time around.
Very strongly that the first time around, Ulduar didn't really get the room to breathe and to really get everybody to see the end of it. It got kind of cut off by Trial of the Crusader. So we knew we wanted to make some kind of a change to make Ulduar last longer. And the first idea we floated, which was my idea, I'll take ownership of it, was that, well, what if we took the Trial of the Crusader items and we lowered their item level a little bit so that Ulduar lasted longer, and then might make us lower Ice Crown Citadel item levels a little bit as well.
Originally, it launched April 2009, with Trial of the Crusader coming out in August. So if you was to break it down into the weeks, where it was actually mid-April and beginning of August, it was around just over 3.5 months of Ulduar. Which that's the sort of timeline people might be expecting now. You know, around 3 to 3.5 months of content, then the next phase comes. But they've specifically said they want it to last longer. So I think we're looking at 4.5 to maybe nearly 5 months of Ulduar, which will be perfect. I think 4.5 will be about right. But when we add that into the fact that we know Chris has already said it's not quite going to reach a year and a half's worth of content, and we've got 5 phases, with ICC almost being guaranteed to give us the same length of content as Ulduar, as in you would expect Ulduar and ICC to almost be out for the same amount of time due to the sheer size, the difficulty, the amount of achievements, the mounts that you can get, and all that sort of thing. So you would imagine whatever Ulduar's out for, you can more or less guarantee ICC is going to be certainly a similar time frame. So we know, saying a full year and a half with 5 phases being around 3.5 months each on average, we should be expecting Phase 1, what we're in at the moment, being fairly short, Trial of the Crusader being fairly short, and obviously Phase 5, which will probably be Ruby Sanctum just on its own, being incredibly short and basically being just a filler raid until we get into probably Cataclysm. So I would actually suspect that we're looking at around the same amount of time for Phase 1 of Wrath as there was for Phase 1 of TBC, which when we look at that, Phase 1 launched on June the 1st, with Phase 2 launching September 15th. So again, that was around 3.5 months, which really ties in well with everything that we're actually looking at today. So I would say 3.5 months with Wrath Phase 1 starting on September the 26th, that around January the 12th would be the ideal time for Phase 2 to launch. I think it would be highly unlikely, whilst not impossible, to get anything this side of Christmas, because as you know, Dragonflight is launching later this month, which will take the spotlight away from Wrath of the Lich King, even just temporarily. I myself know several people in the guild that are all taking a real short 1 to 2 week break just to get that initial hype of Dragonflight, and then obviously they'll be back on Wrath. You might be one of those. I'm not. I've been tempted. I've been playing a little bit of retail in the background. I even streamed retail last Friday, which, good time to plug the stream really, and it's Scottejaye87 over on Twitch. Come give me a follow. But yeah, I gave it a go. I'm probably going to check out launch maybe for a day or two, certainly not a week or two. So their focus is going to be on Dragonflight for the rest of the year and being focused on Dragonflight content. Now, we know there is 2 different teams that work on retail and work on classic, so it wouldn't be completely impossible to have a content drop for both, but it wouldn't make that much sense. We do also need to tie in the fact that Season 1 for the PvP system will run alongside Phase 1. So it can't end too short, even though we have seen some record short PvP seasons, with Season 1 of TBC Classic only lasting, well, less than 3 months. It started on June the 16th and it ended on September the 7th. So I would expect a similar length for this phase as well. So if you're going to go, no, it's too short of a PvP season, they've done it last expansion, they could do it this expansion. And to be fair, even Season 3 was only about 3.5 months, and Season 4 was very similar, starting mid-May and ending towards the end of August. So I wouldn't say they tailor the content releases around trying to keep a balanced PvP season breakdown, if you know what I mean. They can fluctuate in length, and I think Season 1's going to fluctuate massively from Season 2. Now, I've done this on the actual Wrath launch video, but I'm going to do it here, because if you've stayed all the way till the end, then I want to give you something, maybe. So I want you to guess what date you think Phase 2 is going to launch. And you need to be very specific how you word it in the actual comments. So let's say it launched when I reckon it's going to launch on January the 12th. As long as you put 12th space January or January space 12th, not just Jan, make sure it's the full word, because I'm going to search for the full word. And when I see exactly when it's announced and what date it's going to be, I'm going to look at all of the people who actually got it right, and I'm going to give one of you possibly the biggest giveaway I've ever done on the channel, and I've gave quite a lot away over the last couple of years, a $500 Amazon voucher. Yeah, you had that right. So if you guess the right date and you get picked at random, which I'll do on stream, it will be in a video somewhere that I'll be able, I'll announce, you could get a $500 Amazon voucher. All you need to do, as I say, comment the right date and obviously subscribe to the channel. Oh, while you're subscribing, click like as well. I can't be bothered to talk anymore. January the 12th when it's launching. I've told you why. Roll the outro. There's lots of ways you can support the channel to keep me here putting out World of Warcraft content and covering all future MMOs. Consider joining the channel as a member. You get access to emotes. Everyone will know you're a member when you comment on future videos because you get a nice icon next to your name. And you get access to members-only videos, which I'll be putting a lot of on the channel throughout the year. Additionally, there's a Patreon link in the description as well. Thank you for watching all the way to the end, and I'll see you on the next one.